Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Cameron Collins. I'm on the selection committee, and I have with me director Bas Devos and actor Liyo Gong. So there's a lot to talk about. Moss, soup. Uh, but my first question for you is about where this came from. What inspired it?
We have 20 minutes. This is going to be the only question because I'm going to take 20. No, like to begin to explain where a film comes from is I find it a very hard question because it's not one thing, and I don't sit down and start to write. I take a long time, sometimes a really long time, gathering stuff. Often things that come from things I read, things I see, things I've seen or heard in the streets that stuck with me, and I start to puzzle these somewhat together. And sometimes, and this can feel like and I don't want to exaggerate it, but like a little bit of a magical moment is like when some of these things do come together. And I had here like I had Stefan first, like just the idea that I wanted to work with him. He's somebody I've known for a while. He's a friend. And with him there was also a whole world. Like he is Romanian, he arrived in Brussels, and then it turned out that there's like a very large community of Romanians in Brussels, and I wanted to know more about them. So I started investigating a little bit this, like and on a larger scale, just labor migration in Europe. But it's like such a macro story, and it's something that I didn't really know how to deal with very well. So then slowly smaller things also started to pop up, and one of these things was moss. I got into moss.
Yeah, good, because I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, it's hard to trace because like yesterday I tried to say where I found this book. I think I read Mushroom at the End of the World, a book by Anat Singh. Yeah.
Some snaps in the audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think somewhere in this book she references Gathering Moss, a book by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And Robin Wall Kimmerer is some people might know her from a book called Braiding Sweetgrass. But before she wrote a small book, because she's a bryologist, she wrote a small book on moss that's called Gathering Moss, which is like for non-scientific people like me, a beautiful introduction into this world of mosses and their importance. For an ecosystem. And so, yeah, somehow, because I was dealing with these questions of grounding and the earth we live on and construction, like digging and changing, yeah, I think it's somewhat stuck. And I started to feel that there was a relation there possible between this micro world and this macro world. And then slowly the character of Liyo also grew into the film. Yeah, soup. Also, yeah.
Well, I mean, these are large topics, and I think one thing that really stood out to me about your film when I first watched it, and when I really sat with the actors and the writing and the images and of course the sound, is that it's a very delicate film, and which is interesting to me because you have. So many motifs and symbols, the seeds, the moss, the trains, and they don't overwhelm the story. They don't make it feel heavy. There's still like a real lightness and a real intimacy to it. And that's something that I would love to hear more about how you do that, in particular with actors as well. How do you communicate in a film that is asking you to leave a lot unsaid, and the things that are saying quite a bit don't kind of hit us over the head. They're subtle but apparent. How do you find that kind of balance, and how do you work with your actors to communicate these kinds of ideas, these intimacies that are frankly, like, I think hard to express in a film?
I don't know. No, I really don't know. I think like I'm not good at a lot of things, but I think I am somewhat good at just sensing a moment on set. Like this, I'm again, it's nothing magical or special, but it's something that I think I can do. I can feel whether something is right or wrong, and it's something incredibly intuitive. There's no film theory behind it. It's just I look at Liyo. Liyo says a line, and yeah, feels right. And then sometimes no, it's slightly off, and I'm not entirely sure why it's off. But let's try maybe this, and then try it a little bit different, and then it's on again. And so yeah, I think for a lot of these themes and also like visual themes, it's about I try to be as open as possible on a set. I try to be there and things I had in my head for a long time. I try to see them new. I try to just be with them. And then there's a train in the morning and it arrives, and it's the first train that arrives in the morning, and there's these two guys looking at it, and it's like it's beautiful, and I feel the urge to like put my hand on Stefan's shoulder, and then I thought like maybe it's nice if Stefan does this to Cedric, and then something happens, and it just gives me a good feeling, and if I have a good feeling, I assume that others will have it as well. Mega basic.
No, I mean, that's great. That's art. Frankly, so I quite appreciate that. And as an actor, how do you, I mean, I'm really into this idea of just what feels right. As an actor, what feels right in a film like this? Like, how did you kind of center your performance?
So first of all, I'm not an actress. Usually, it's I'm usually a film editor. And then we have friends in common that recommended me when Bas was looking for someone to play the part of Shushio. And at first, I didn't think I would actually be in the film, but I was interested to give like feedbacks about the version of the script that you had sent me at the time, because also you were asking me what you think about this character of a Chinese immigrant based on your experience. And so we met to discuss the script, and I also tried some lines, but I was like,
this was a strange miscommunication. I was like, I would like to see Liyo do this, and
but
I probably was that was super unclear. Like now I think like, what did I tell her?
It's just me. I was but when you called me and you were like, okay, we're gonna shoot in May, we got the funding and stuff, and I was like, what, really, you want me to act in a film? But then I was like, I'm an editor, I'm not an actress. But in a way I thought for once it would be brave for me to be on the other side, and also interesting as like, even for my experience as an editor, to see how it feels to really be there when it happens, like, because I'm so judgy with actors and actresses all the time. And I'm like also in this position where I can control time and tempo, and like to the point of like madness is like frame by frame, and you can replay the sequence all over, and you can modulate everything, and you become super perfectionist and super attuned to all the little details. It's really hyper focused. But then I was like, wow, even when I tried the lines and I was like doing the casting, I was like, okay, so now I am in it, and I can modulate that timing like while it's flowing, like real time. And I was like, it's interesting. And then I was a bit insecure, and I talked to the friend we have in common who is one of the person who recommended me, and I was like, you sure I can do it? And he's a director too. And then Liyo told me something that really helped me. He said, first of all, it's not your responsibility, it's Bas' job. It's Bas' responsibility. All you have to do is to show up and to be present. And then I was like, this thing of being present, that's the key, because you overthink when you edit, but like when you're acting, you cannot overthink, otherwise you're not. And your body language won't communicate. Like, and something else that helped me too in acting is that when I edit, I get in a zone where I'm like so attuned and so close, and I have to feel what the characters feel. So it's empathy, and like this empathy that I have when I edit, I had it on set thinking about the character and thinking like, what is she feeling? What is she? And that's what informed me. But I maybe I should develop an acting method based on first be an editor.
That is a method. That's a very beautiful method, and it's like to see Liyo also get beyond this like this hyper conscious state, like knowing what it is to see a face enlarged on a screen, and like she was saying, like everybody is gonna say I blink a lot because I blink a lot, stuff like that.
Because when you edit, you're like, no, blink now. I wanted to cut at that moment.
But it was really beautiful to see her like, she made a step out of this thinking, and it was very beautiful. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're an actor. Yeah, I think you might be, because everything. I mean, what you're saying about the empathy of the editor is also not something that I had really thought about in those terms. But the idea that that's something that you'd have already kind of in your toolkit as an actor is, I think, really interesting. It's an unusual way into acting, but you're so natural. You don't seem like you're in your head at all, as I watch.
This is where you say thank you. No, but I think we also, I think in general, I cast people because I like the people, and then I also want them to be who they are. I wasn't, even though she's not a scientist, but Liyo is very much what I see on screen also, like this generous person, and Stefan is the same. He's a very generous guy, and it just transpires. And I also would I know it's my responsibility, but I don't have the tools to make them nice if they're not nice people. I don't know how to do that. So I just go and look for people I love, and I work with them.
And I think the film is better for that being apparent, I think, as we watch, because it's about nice people. And I something we talked about before the film was the ending, which I really, really love. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit about that choice, because I think that was like the perfect period on something so bittersweet but so true about, first of all, I forget names all the time, so that would have been me. But also, there's something so bittersweet but also beautiful about the fact that the connection did not really conform to some of the social norms that I think of. That this is not per se a romance. That it's impermanent but also permanent in a way. I just would love to hear you talk about the choice to end it this way. I don't know if you had other ideas, or if this is something you found in the edit or in the script, or what.
No, this was I wrote it like that because I normally there's this voiceover by Liyo where she speaks about this state of waking up and not having names for the world, and a way of I don't know, somehow being more animal-like than human-like, because we have this tendency to distance ourselves from the world through our words. Language is both a way of becoming more intimate with the world, but also a way of keeping a distance between us and the world. It's this paradoxical thing. And so I wrote this. Normally the film opened with it. And so already in my head I had this idea, like as soon as it found its place there, I was like, it would be nice to somehow tie it up with this thought somehow. And so it was in the script. And I just really like the idea a lot of two people meeting but not speaking about what people normally speak about. And this is like, where are you from? What are you doing here? But to immediately go towards something that connects them. And it's a knowledge. It's a knowledge that she shares with him, and he shares whatever knowledge he has with her. And they bond over this. They bond over attention for something. And I found, like, a lot of this started with thinking about attention, and attention for in this case, the smallest. What makes moss so particular and so beautiful for me is that it's different from other plants that you can just enjoy by walking through a forest. One has to stop and sit down and kneel, and you have to bring it close. You even have to magnify it to really see its beauty. So it requires an attention that we are not really used to. And once you've seen moss, you can't unsee it, and you see it everywhere. And it's really something special, that it's like the person that taught me to look at it, it felt like a gift, like somebody has given me something. And I thought that's something beautiful for them to bond over. And to think further, like attention for me as a sort of like a prerequisite, or like or the beginning of love. Without attention, there's no love. Yeah, I don't know. It was a confused answer. I'm sorry.
No, but I don't know. I really like what you're saying, in part because you're making me think even about the sound design and the way that heightens my attention to what's going on screen, that I'm paying more attention to the silences between people, but what's going on in those silences, but nature, the construction sounds. And it seems like you put a lot of thought into what this film would sound like.
Yeah, sound is tricky and funny. Like the image is something that you have to think about beforehand, because it's very simple. Like you want to make something technical, like a camera following a person. You need to have either a dolly or a Steadicam operator or whatever. You need to have the tools to be able to do that. So it requires a lot of thinking beforehand. But I found out, at least for me, and I think there are people who work in entirely different ways, but for me, sound is very hard to think of in advance. I have thoughts. I have many thoughts, and I write them also into the script. It makes it very bad and confusing. But often I realize that the thoughts I had won't work. For example, for this film, I had this idea that I wanted to have micro sounds of plants, and I have had the great pleasure of working with Chris Watson, who is a world famous sound engineer and sound recordist, and I asked him to provide me with these micro sounds, because I had this thought, like, we're going to go very small into the tiniest of nature. Like, it would be nice to hear like an ant walk on a leaf. And he said, like, sure, I have those recordings. And he sent it to me. And he said, like, I also have like the liquids that run through trees and that open leaves. I said, yeah, sure, send it on. And it all sounded terrible, like terrifying. It was like, boo. I was like, Jonathan Glazer film, not my film. So like, all these preconceptions I had, like, sound-wise, and the things I wanted to do with it sound-wise, it was like, okay, no, forget it. It will have to be something else. And then you start constructing. Then you really start to, with the thoughts that to play with it. Sound is so, it's playful, and the image is much more strict and it's rigorous. What is there is there. What isn't there isn't there. And in sound, anything can happen. And so this is a tool for me to direct, the spectator to open up and to open his ears and heart and whatever. Sound is very important there, I think.
I think we have time for maybe one or two audience questions.
I'm sorry, wait for the mic.
You answered a lot of my questions already, which is great, and I loved watching the film. I was curious about your decision to shoot on this format instead of like a widescreen.
Yeah, there's some thinking in that, and there's also some not thinking, or feeling like it's right. But the thinking part is just the idea that I was thinking a lot about people, and then people in a surrounding, and the beauty of this format is like a close-up. Stefan wakes up, it fills the screen, there's no surrounding. But then we got wide and we see his body, and his space is all of a sudden there. And I think that is very beautiful in this format, the way that a close versus a wide works. But it's also something that is not really new to me. I've been working with this format for 3 of my films, so it's also, before I could say like we do it to challenge ourselves to watch in a different way, but now that's no longer true. It's like the way I watch. I actually see the world like that. But yeah, it's a combination of aesthetics and a feeling, and also this thought of people and people in their space.
One more. In the back.
Hi, thanks for an incredibly beautiful film. For me, the way I saw it, the way I felt it, was I do not know either character. I felt with the scientist that we meet her in her lab, and then she's out in the field, and then she's with the ant, and then she's, of course, walking with him, and then she's back with the ant, and oh, I don't know. I have no idea who this person is, and I felt the same for him in as much as, well, he's going away for a month. Well, it may be longer. And the one extended is with the sister, who gives intimations that, well, you know, take it slow. So I'm thinking something traumatic happened, and he's in a particular space right now, and then we don't see him again. I loved the way she's examining microscopically the moss, and we are looking at the two of them in the same way with no final answer. That indeterminacy I love. You know what I mean? I can't say it fast. But a beautiful, still film. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
By the way, I also really don't know. Like, I don't think about these characters as like psychologically understandable beings, because I really have trouble understanding the way I work, so I really don't have the pretension to understand how other people work. I think the beauty of film is that it's always telling us to see what is there, and that's it. And it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's very mysterious, and it's extremely, yeah. Beautiful is probably the word. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you both for a really lovely
You're welcome.
film.
Thank you.
Thank you.